2 weeks. Bree had been at the job 2 weeks. What the hell had this world come to that she'd been bussing tables early Monday morning, running around filling coffee cups and slamming down plates full of eggs and bacon, to this? Now she was locked up in a cabin with 2 other female captives, and she was baking for the kidnappers. One of the other women had taken a hit across the cheek for arguing, but no one called Bree stupid. A fool? Yes. She'd only gotten off the damn bus 2 weeks and 2 days ago. Alaska was as far away as her meager pennies could take her. It was also one of the few places she'd hoped to visit in her lifetime. Now that her lifetime had been extended, hopefully, she'd been successfully working her way around the country for 6 months. Until this. She hadn't planned on overhearing a conversation at the diner where she worked. Who did? But these men had stacked up a serious amount of firepower and were making plans. Betsy had overheard part of the conversation first and raced to the back to talk to Boomer, the cook and owner. Mary had rushed over to hear what was going on. At the same time, Bree had been placing fully laden plates on the table and had been required to wait until they removed all their papers so she had space. She'd caught a glimpse of blueprints and some names, and with her photographic memory, she'd tucked the information away like she did so much other information she saw on a daily basis. 2 men had left, and soon after, the 3 remaining men realized what Bree had seen and heard too, and things had gotten ugly. All 3 of the men had gotten up and walked to the back. Poor Boomer. He'd taken an uppercut to the jaw and had hit the floor out cold. Then the men had grabbed the 3 waitresses and thrown them into a truck and brought them here. It was just too stupid a scenario. There were outdoorsmen all over, but places like Alaska bred them that way. Although she wasn't sure how or why, she'd gotten the impression they weren't locals. The other 2 women had been here all their lives. They'd known if the men were, but Bree hadn't had a chance to talk to them yet. And not all the men she'd seen at the diner were here, but that didn't mean they weren't on the way. Hardened, capable, and way too bullheaded to talk to. She had 3 older brothers. She knew the kind. She also knew the easiest way to get on their good side. Food. So she'd immediately set about searching the kitchen for contents and made up an apple cobbler with some wrinkled apples she'd found in the back of the cooler. The other 2 women had hissed at her and told her to stop. Like hell. She at least now knew where the butcher knives were and what kind of men they were. You could learn a lot from a kitchen. The fridge was clean, not full of molding foods. The cupboards were crammed full of canned goods and dried foods. They could hole up here for a long time. When she realized that they had generators and a well, she knew there was damn little anyone was going to do to get the women out of here without a fight if the men didn't want to hand them over willingly. She understood sheer knock-headed stubbornness. All her brothers and her father were the same. If she was going to be honest, then she'd admit to having her fair share of that trait as well. When she was done, she popped the treat into the oven and set about washing dishes. Behind her, the men were into a heavy discussion but kept their voices so low she couldn't hear the details. Fine. She'd act like an honored guest in the meantime. Fake it until you make it, right? She stared out the window, trying to catalog where the hell they were. It was a good half-hour's drive from Boomer's diner, but she had no clue in what direction. And in this country, a half-hour straight out could be anywhere. "Hell, that smells good. What did you put in the oven, Greg?" asked a newcomer entering from the back door. She sent him a sidelong glance and kept her mouth shut. He was younger than the 3 she'd seen so far. That meant he was in his 40s, not 50s or 60s. He hadn't been one of the other 2 men she'd seen at the diner, so how many were involved in this mess? "Wow, where'd the women come from?" he asked, his shock rippling around the room. "And why?" She stiffened slightly, but kept her head down and washed the forks in her hand. So the kidnapping hadn't been part of their original plans. So what had been the original plan?